The other movie I bought on Blu-ray is Orca,
Okay.
which was put out by Shot Factory. I'm going to show the trailer here. Disappointingly, there's no special features on the disc.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame. But let's give everyone a taste of Orca here.
The ancient Romans called him Orca or Canis, Latin for bringer of death. He is without challenge the most powerful animal on the globe, the killer whale. Orca has 48 teeth, set in 2 impressive rows. In some respects, the orca's intelligence may be even superior to man's. They remain loyal to one mate for life. As parents, they are exemplary, better than many human beings. And like human beings, they have a profound instinct for vengeance. An innocent creature is destroyed by an act of human cruelty, and the ultimate battle of man against nature begins. Dino De Laurentiis presents Orca.
Can you commit a sin against an animal?
He followed you. He saw you on the deck of the boat.
They always remember the human being who had tried to harm them.
He deliberately left you your boat because he wants to fight you on the sea.
I won't do that.
Now the fish have vanished from the fishing grounds. And it's all because of your whale.
In fact, I won't fight him at all.
You're not even man enough to accept the excitement of his challenge.
I'll fight you! You're a vengeful son of a...
Orca, starring Richard Harris.
Okay.
It was a good trailer.
It is a good trailer. It really is a good trailer, which is surprising because you've watched a lot of trailers from the 70s for great movies that are terrible.
And I just want to comment on what you said before we watched the trailer, which is the lack of special features. And that's very disappointing for a lot of these Shout Factory and Scream Factory releases, because that used to be, they prided themselves on putting out these very high quality discs, not just with good transfers of the movie, but with an audio commentary track, a making of featurette, and anything else to kind of supplement it. And they have not been doing a good job at all. And I kind of dread having to buy their stuff now, because it's just like you're not going to get anything. Whereas with Kino Lorber, their Studio Classics line, they don't put additional features very rarely, but I don't care about that. The audio commentary by a very well-read and well-informed historian speaks much greater than any featurette would. And I appreciate what they do for their films.
We grew up in the golden age of special features on DVDs, right? Where you would get the 2-disc, which would be all special features, and an extensive documentary on just about every movie. I mean, I think we know how good Lucas was at that. Mm-hmm. And like Spider-Man 2 or anything that came out, you had an extensive documentary on how they made it. And I would attribute
modern movies, I would say, benefit much more from those types of featurettes rather than an audio commentary, which is kind of useless and boring, especially when they put the cast on there and stuff. I hated that. Horrible. But for these old movies, definitely a historical commentary is I value so much more than those types of things.
Absolutely. But yeah, you know what? I spoke too soon. I believe there is a commentary track on the Orca DVD.
Oh, is there? Okay.
To it. But Orca, what'd you think?
Oh, so I really like this one a lot. And the more I see it, this is the second time I watched it, so I liked it a lot more than I did the first time. I think that's partially because of expectations and not knowing what this movie is going into it. You're expecting a pretty significant Jaws ripoff, and it is in very many ways. But it's also a very, very different movie. And if you talk about it or describe it on a very superficial level, it sounds absolutely ridiculous and stupid, but it is not. It's actually much more well thought out than I think people give it credit for. And that's adding that kind of human quality to the animal, that the animal has a motive, has a mission, and it is on a vengeance quest to avenge its murdered mate and unborn child. And it's kind of like
righteous.
I describe it more like death. It's like Death Wish meets Jaws,
Yeah. My initial thinking was when I saw Orca, it's less. I mean, it's like there's a lot going on that doesn't exactly work. I think that the extensive use of narration in the movie is not necessary and a little much. I think the Charlotte Rampling character is, I don't like. She's a sticking point for me because
her voice is so soothing, though. Come on.
Oh, I love Charlotte Rampling. She's excellent, and she was, obviously. Have you ever seen the movie The Night Porter, which is kind of what put her on the map?
I'm not.
Very interesting film to watch. It's terrific, and it's not something they would ever make today. It's a movie, I believe it's an Italian movie about her. She's a proprietor of a hotel, but she was in the Holocaust as a young woman, and she had a sexual relationship, a romantic relationship, with one of the guards at Auschwitz, and she sees him at a hotel later in life, and they begin to spark an affair. Now,
I'm reading the plot synopsis. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I'm reading the plot synopsis.
Well, you laugh because it's like it's unbelievable that they would never make something like that today. But it's a very
you left out a particular aspect of their relationship that's
which is what that she does a sexual dance for everybody at the camp.
It's all over the Wikipedia page is the sadomasochistic relationship here.
That is the whole idea, right? It's very much like a proto 50 Shades of Grey, but it deals with that idea that even though we're not supposed to endorse that kind of relationship, it still exists amongst a lot of people, right? It's very much like if I can break up with an analogy that's like readily accessible to both of us, it's like the comedian Scarlet Spectre relationship in Watchmen, right?
Oh, okay.
Very much like that, right? How can you love your abuser? It's that sort of thing, right? It's very good. But she obviously was a very hot commodity, and so they put her in this big blockbuster with Dino De Laurentiis, the man who I think he put out King Kong this same year, so he was on a tear.
Yeah, that's an excellent movie. I love the '70s King Kong.
If I'm not wrong, I haven't seen the '70s King Kong in a long time, but if I'm not wrong, were they not going to try to find oil in the first in the remake King Kong, and they find King Kong? Is that not?
No, I think in the '70s one, that's what they're going for. They're going for oil.
Right. They're going for oil.
In the original one, they're not. They're going for I don't remember exactly, but it's
adventure reasons,
or a reason. Yeah,
manifest
this one
destiny.
is heavily tied into the critique of the oil and gas industry and all that.
Yeah. Again, the environmental theme in these animal movies that encroached in the '70s, and I guess we can touch on that a little later. But she, to me, her character. First of all, I don't want to be totally down the film right out of the gate. I really enjoy it. I think that it has a lot loftier ideas about itself than a Grizzly does, where Grizzly was just like, let's make an exciting picture for the drive-in, right?
Yeah.
I was not expecting the journey of Orca to end in like the Arctic with glaciers, like a la Frankenstein or Moby Dick, where we have a sort of driven character like wanting to deal with like and sort of to settle accounts with this whale, right? Because he feels the Richard Harris character in the plot essentially. He starts out the movie as a sort of simple fisherman with aspirations to be rich. So if he is able to capture an orca whale and sell it to a zoo, he'll make $500,000 or whatever. He botches this capture and kills the orca whale. And then he's like, it's really brutal.
It's very graphic, and it's actually disturbing. And I think that really helps make an impact on you, that this is stark and gross, and it makes you squirm in your seat.
If I was PETA, I'd be like, everyone's got to watch Orca, right?
Yeah, and well, they don't. I mean, capturing whales is illegal now, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
pretty sure. Yeah,
and I found myself softening on these issues as I get older. I don't know if keeping 10,000 chickens in a cage this big so that I can get a cheap McNugget is necessarily, moral or right. I think I saw videos my wife showed me of a chicken that they rescued from one of these things, and they don't even grow feathers on their wings. They just have like bones, and they never are allowed to move, and they just give birth to,
it's cruel and
totally
unusual.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, we're supposed to be stewards of the environment and of nature, and you have to treat these animals with respect, even if they're meant to be part of the food chain or whatever. doesn't give you a right to abuse them and treat them like that. It's not
commodify them in such a based horrible way. Yeah. I'm with you. And I said that to somebody, and they're like, "What are you, a communist now?" And I was like, I mean, we would go without McNuggets for 2 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, but I say that because it is a very affecting and powerful scene, and it is kind of amazing how they're able to get you back on the side of Richard Harris, who starts out as basically like a miserable character, like a miserly, like, oh, okay, that's an interesting point from Good Owner. He says Orca destroys a whole oil refinery, not to mention Bo Derek's leg with a cast on it. Yes, that was very impressive. But you're right. And why I say that these movies tie in with the disaster films is because you have a lot of times the animal, like in Grizzly, is able to affect incredible damage on physical objects, and sort of like Orca, like he is able to start a gigantic fire that blows up an oil refinery. Yeah, that's interesting, right? It's very telling. But
I would just say, hold on. I just want to say, you went on the side of Richard Harris' character. Actually, for the entirety of the movie and even until the end, I was actually on the side of the Orca. So,
sure.
And I was satisfied at the end that he gets his revenge.
But in that, okay, maybe we have a different point on this, because in the moment that he's killing the whale, you're like, dude, fuck you. You know what I mean? You couldn't just be you couldn't just be satisfied catching, crappie or whatever the hell they catch in Alaska. You had to really go after this poor whale and his family and whatnot. After we get the lecture from Charlotte Rampling, who's teaching a course in Whales 101 or whatever, shameless, info dump.
There's a certain level though of going after. They make a point, and I think it's effective. Is that these are higher level intelligence animals? Obviously, that's the whole point of the movie. But their higher level of intelligence kind of dictates or implies that you should not be treating them the same that you would treat other animals of lesser intelligence, because these are they're higher level beings or whatever. That's kind of the point. That's Day of the Dolphin makes us to the point too. Yes. These animals shouldn't be hunted or captured or killed in the same way that you would treat a normal fish or a chicken or a cow or something like that. They have not a sentience or a sense of being, but they have some level of consciousness that implies you shouldn't be doing this to them.
And it's also sort of a supernatural idea, because it's a communication that, and Richard Harris mocks this idea, where Charlotte Rampling says, well, these whales communicate. Oh, really? They talk? Well, not in the way that you traditionally think of it, but like they almost have a sort of, they have a clan-like society, right?
Yeah.
And, but with Richard Harris, though, in that moment, you don't like him, but aren't you at all? You're sort of on his side in his quest for redemption, because yes, you are. I mean, I
don't feel like he ever showed any sign of remorse or, regret for what he did, other than the fact that now he's being hunted. I think.
I disagree.
I don't know. I didn't feel it. No, I feel like he knew he messed up, and he cowered. He panicked at the last minute, and now he's paying for that. But he didn't. I don't feel that he actually showed any remorse for what
I believe that he went on that quest against Orca because he knew he was going to die. Or the reason that he went on the quest. No, first of all, we have sort of a ghost story element to the film where the Orca is haunting the town, as it were, right? Yeah. And the townspeople, sort of personified in the Native American man in the movie, makes the point, which is like, we're not going to end this curse until you make this. Yeah, exactly. And I think Richard Harris goes, well, I owe it to this whale to go mano a mano with him, right? I never got the feeling that he, after the first act, didn't respect the whale. He had sort of a very Moby Dick approach to it, right? Who's the main dude? Ahab, right? He wasn't like obsessive about, I got to kill this whale. Fuck him. I got to get this whale out of my life. No, he was like,
so is he on a suicide mission then?
Yes, I believe so. He was on like a fulfillment mission of like, and I thought that this is, first of all, a movie that throws, as a movie that is often pinned, and what I thought I was seeing, like a total Jaws ripoff, it breaks the paradigm in many ways.
Yes.
Right? No, I guess I have minor qualms with it in terms of like, I think the Charlotte Rampling narration is a little much. They go to great lengths to explain why she wants to hang out with Richard Harris, and she's like, "Oh, I felt that I was attracted to him," and it's like, what? Like, if you didn't have any of that and she just went along for the ride, you would never have questioned it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with her at all in this movie. I think she's the most appealing and interesting character in the movie, and maybe that's just her voice is so seductive. But I could have used more of her and less of Richard Harris because I found him to be largely uninteresting, despite your appeal in that matter. But I just want to say, I think what would be
he's the main character.
He is the main character, but I don't think he doesn't carry the movie for me. I found him to be. I feel like the main character maybe should have been, or maybe it is the Orca. Is that not the main character?
See, this is where I
get
goofy.
Is he not the protagonist of his movie?
The same as you ripped on Grizzly.
Is the enemy, is the villain here?
Yeah, but he's engaging with a higher form of like hunter and hunted ideal, right? He's like, I fucked this whale over.
Who was wronged? Who was wronged here?
He was wrong. He deserved to die. He did deserve to die, but he faced his death like a man, and he knew he had to do it, right?
Sure.
You got to turn back. No, I have to face this whale.
Well, also, they wouldn't let him.
At the end.
They wouldn't let him leave. I also didn't pick up that the first time that I watched the movie.
They wouldn't let him leave.
They would not let him leave because you can obviously say, well, how's the whale going to kill you if you're on dry land somewhere in the middle of middle of Canada or the United States? Like, but they won't let him leave. They turn off the gas pumps at the gas station so he can't fill up his car.
He could have turned back at any time in the pursuit of Orca, right? Or not even pursuit. He goes to a mutual place where he knows Orca is going to come get him, right?
Yeah.
He could have turned around, and then at the end, he throws his gun away, and he goes, for a moment, then he gets it back because Charlotte Rampling gives it to him. It's, whatever. But, like, he goes after him with a harpoon to be evenly matched. I think he even says something about that in the movie where he's like, I gotta meet him on his terms, right? He's facing the consequences of what he did. He knows what he did was wrong. He pivots, and the movie, I think, in my opinion, lands that pivot, right? And then, Orca, does a reprisal against him and eats Bo Derek's leg and destroys his house, which is a great action scene, by the way.
Yeah, that is the house on stilts collapse. That is awesome. Highlight of the movie. That's that scene in the movie. It's super impressive, excellently staged, very well done. I have to say.
Well done.
Stands out.
And
for sure.
That was an interesting thing to me too.
The death of the female whale. That's the other scene. That's just the top of the movie.
Really a standout. Now, there was so much narration in it. I was watching it, and there's even a moment where Richard Harris. Okay, hold on. First of all,
you're hung up on the narration, man.
You're so hung up on Charlotte Rampling because she's pretty, and she is beautiful.
I just said
even though her makeup was caked on many times in the film.
It's her voice.
Terrible.
It's the voice.
I get it.
Can we talk about what the pitch for this movie must have been? And then I'm thinking about this.
Give you a mixtape of Charlotte Rampling's voice narration intermixed with whale sounds for you to go to sleep to.
Imagine the pitch for this movie, and then reading on the Wikipedia page afterwards is exactly as I imagined. If this is accurate, imagine you just saw Jaws, and then Dino De Laurentiis is like, "Hey, this movie made a lot of money. What can we do to make it even bigger? What's bigger than a great white shark? Oh, a killer whale, right? Okay, let's do that. But then we can't call it like killer whale, like just like we couldn't call the other movie like Shark. We'd call it Orca.
My point is that I was watching it. This is something that I thought was a profound observation. You're fucking up my notes because I wrote all this shit down. Like, you wanted to rip on Grizzly for being cheap. I had a million things in here where I was like,
wait,
okay. What? First off, the Charlotte Rampling character delivers a giant monologue. This is okay. So Cosmonaut makes this point, and he goes, "I've worked on big movies in post. In my experience, narration always got added when the film was in trouble with focus groups." Yeah. Sure. So there was obviously somebody in the focus group that said, "Why does Charlotte Rampling want to hang out with this guy?" Right? No, I don't have my women goggles for 70s men, but would it have been? Is it even in the realm of possibility that Richard Harris was attractive to a woman? He was in Camelot. He was in movies. He should have been a Bond villain. I don't know why he was never a Bond villain. He would have been great. But there's a moment in the film.
Park in the movie too.
that scene where Richard Harris is building a fake scarecrow of himself to like get Orca to eat it or something, right? And Charlotte Rampling comes up to him and says, "Hey, you know the Orca attacked everyone's boat in town, but not yours because he wants you to get on the boat and go face him, right?" And then he goes, "Oh shit, you're right." And then he calls her on the phone and he goes, "You're right. I have to go face Orca." And then she goes, "No, you don't. We don't know what he wants. I was wrong." And I'm like, "What? Like you just gave like a Yoda monologue to him about the secret of the whale, and now you're backtracking? You know, I mean, like what? Like you just told him that." And then when she gets on the boat, we have a narration that says, "I don't know why I went. Maybe because I wanted to not see the whale die, but I wanted to go on the boat." It's like, huh? Like, what? There's no real good reason for her to go on the boat.
Right. Just because she's in the movie, she needs to be there. She needs to be there for the climax, you know?
But you and me are watching it, and like if she was just on the boat, like we wouldn't have questioned that. We wouldn't have.
No, I mean, I don't think over-explaining is necessary for many of these movies but who goes to focus groups and who's being tested for these movies, and so
people from the 70s, like with plaid shirts on. Sure. But like, what you needed was something where she's like, "I have to study this whale." And then he would be like, "Well, I'm going to go kill it." And she's like, "Well, we'll see about that. I believe you have to let me study it first or whatever." And he's like, "I can't promise I won't kill the whale." Something like that. Right. But, yeah, that was my, but about the narration, I was watching it and I remember Richard Harris, like there's a moment where he has an internal monologue narration in his head. And he goes, "He's doing just what I thought he would do." And I go, I haven't heard this much narration in a movie since David Lynch's Dune. And then I said to myself, Dino De Laurentiis made that movie too. So maybe Dino is a big narration guy. There's my dumbass point.
I'm generally not a fan of narration, especially when the movie first begins. But it didn't bother me here. I think it really bothers me in modern movies, though. Really bugs me because you know that there was a gap in the storytelling that they have to make up for now, and it's like, oh, come on, you know.
So, Orca
I really like this movie, and I'm glad that I watched it again for the purposes of this discussion, because it was like I kind of was meh on it the first time I watched it, and then this time I really found a lot more to enjoy and appreciate with it that I will take away with, and you know, hopefully the next time I watch it again, I'll find even more. But I really liked it. I would recommend this one. I would
too. We have a good answer to our question here. Good Owner says that Harris was kind of attractive in Mutiny on the Bounty and Hawaii.
Oh, like 15 years before, you know.
So we know Good Owner is a boomer lady. You can confirm or deny this. That's going to be my guess. Okay, yeah, no, I liked.
Before we move on to this, I mean, just besides the fact that it feels like a Jaws, they obviously made it because of Jaws. There's a lot of nods or I guess homages or references to Jaws. I mean, how many times do you see the fin of the orca swimming, you know, through the water like you do in Jaws? Or what happens immediately at the beginning of the movie? What animal does the orca kill first to show its might and its power? It kills a great white shark. It
kills a shark, which is Dino's way of saying, "My fucking whale better than your shark."
Exactly, right?
Right, yeah.
And and what do you remember the name of the boat in Jaws? Do you remember the name of the boat in the original Jaws?
No,
it's Orca.
No, it is. You're right. Nice.
Plus,
Dino.
the music sounds a little iffy too, like the John Williams score. So there's a lot of like copying there, but I didn't mind it, and
especially it's very much a copy. I guess I even thought Alligators was a little bit of a ripoff too. Like, but
Alligator. Oh, that's a